Greetings, critical learners. My name is Mr. Simbi, and welcome to today's accounting class. It is a joy to have you in my class. I do look forward to having you in my class every Friday at 2 o'clock. We are here as we are preparing for the prelim exam that is just around the corner. I do hope that you can send the link to your friends. We will say, tell a friend to tell a friend that the class is on. In today's class, I'm going to be focusing on budgets. So if you have been having problems with budgets, or you know a friend that is struggling with budgets, well, that is going to be a thing of the past, because today we're going to explain and make things simple for you. Here are my objectives for today's class. I'm going to speak on concepts that relate to budgets. I'll also do the debtors collection schedule. I have some very interesting calculations that pertain to the debtors collection schedule. I'll also do the creditors payment schedule. And I also have budget calculations. What is the cash budget? So remember, when we do budgets, we have to do what is known as the cash budget, and we also do what is known as the projected statement of comprehensive income, previously known as the projected income statement. In today's class, my focus is going to be mainly on the cash budget. What is the cash budget? It is a budget that shows the expected inflow and outflow of cash. So here we are looking at the movement of cash, that is cash inflow as well as cash outflow. The cash budget reflects the expected balance in the bank during the budget period. It is a focus of cash receipts as well as cash payments. This is what a cash budget is about. What is the purpose? Why prepare a cash budget at all? So here we're going to look at the purpose of the cash budget. Number one, it is to project or estimate the future receipts and payments. Okay, key, receipts and payments. Budgeting forms an integral part of planning to achieve maximum profits. And then thirdly, to promote the smooth running of the business. Then lastly, which is number 4, to indicate a possible cash shortage and time to arrange bridging finance. This is key when we are doing budgeting, that we would know that we might have cash challenges, so we then arrange bridging finance. When we're in the cash budget, I'm going to now focus on the debtors collection schedule. What is the debtors collection schedule? The debtors collection schedule is a schedule used to determine the amount of cash that is expected to be collected or received from debtors during each month of the budget period. Usually, debtors collection schedule is prepared before the cash budget is drawn up. So we would do our debtors collection schedule before we even do the cash budget, so that the amounts from the debtors collection schedule can be reflected then in the cash budget. And today I'll show you how to do the debtors collection schedule. So without further ado, let's get to activity number 1. And activity 1 is from the NSC June 2023 paper 2. I have sent this worksheet already. Your teacher must be having it. So if your teacher has it, you must have received it. If you have not yet received it, please do speak to your teacher and then ask if your teacher has the worksheet so that they can give it to you. It makes it easy when I do calculations here. Then you get to understand where am I getting the figures from. Okay, so activity number 1 is from the NSC June 2023, and our focus is on paper 2. Okay, let's see what it is that is required of us. So it reads, Alice Finishers Pty Ltd. The information relates to the budget period ending July 2023. So this is the budget period here. Required. Complete the debtors collection schedule for July 2023. And then here we're given the sales and the cost of sales Okay, that is the information that we have there. And then we are also given the debtors trend. In other words, how our debtors are going to be paying their debt. And we're told 20% pay in the month of sale and receive 7.5% discount. So we're going to be using these figures in our calculations. Please make sure you have a calculator with you. You need to have a pen as well as somewhere else to write. You need to have a sheet of paper so that you can take the calculations that I'll be doing here with you down. Okay, let's see the answer book that we were provided with. So this is the answer book that we were provided with, and we're going to use this answer book to complete. You see that in the original answer book from the exam paper, there were figures that were already put in, but I took them out just so I can show you how to properly record. Okay, so I'm going to do this even though in the actual exam paper the figures were already given, but for the purpose of this class I've taken those figures out so I can just have more calculations to do together with you. Are we good? Okay, so here's the information together with the answer book now on one page. Are you ready? Okay, if you're ready, then let's begin. You're going to need a calculator. So I'm going to ask that you take a calculator. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, a 2-minute break, as you go and look for a calculator. Make sure your calculator is close to you. So you're going to go for a 2-minute break as you search for a calculator. Make sure you have your calculator with you. All right, I'm going to see you guys exactly after 2 minutes. Welcome back, dear learners. I hope you managed to find your calculator. Here's a very important hint. On the day of the prelim, make sure you take a calculator that you're used to. Do not borrow a calculator on the eve of the prelim. Make sure you have a calculator that you've always been using, a calculator that you are familiar with. We don't want surprises on the day of the prelim. Okay, so let's go. We are told here we have credit sales, we have the month of April to July. And then here we're going to collect. So I have my May, my June, and my July. And as I told you, I've made changes in the original answer book from the original question paper. Some of the answers were given in, but I want to calculate this together with you so that we can see how they came about, these answers. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to come and we're going to read how the debtors are going to pay. We're told 20% pay in the month of sale. So it means if I sell in April, my first collection is going to be in April. If I sell in April, my first collection is going to be in April. And if I sell in April, my second collection is going to be in May, 55%, and the month following. And then if I sell in April, my third and last collection is going to be in June. That is the 22%. They pay 2 months after the sales month. Okay, so this is how we're going to be collecting. But I know it does take time for you to really understand how this debtors collection schedule can work. I want to see if I can bring a simpler way of calculating this. Okay, so I'm going to try and bring a simpler way of calculating this. Let's now say, if I am going to collect in the month of sale 20%, I'm going to come and I'll call that month 1. Okay, I'll call that month 1. And the following month, I call it 2. And the third month, the 2 months after, I call it 3. We're still together. All right. So I'll come here and then I'll now say, if I sell in April, my first collection, which is 1, is going to be in April. Here you can see I only have May. That means here I'll only collect the 55%, which is number 2, the one in May. Okay, so I'll collect that one. That is number 2. I'll collect that in May. When I sell in April, I'll collect that in May. All right. Now, you can see there's no other months going there. Let me come and then say, if I sell in May, I know I'm going to collect the 20% in that same May. If I sell in May, I'll collect the 20% in that May. So I'll call it 1 here. Okay. And if I sell in June, I cannot collect in May. So here there's no collection here. There is no collection there. If I sell in June, I will not collect in May. And if I sell in July, I cannot collect in May. So here there'll be nothing over there. There's nothing over there. All right, let's start it now. So if I sell in April 882,000, I know that from the sales of April, I'll collect 55% in May. Why? Because I'll collect the 20% in April and then the 55% in the following month after April, that is May. So that means I'll come here and then I'll say, of the sales in April, which is 882,000, I am going to collect my 20%. I'll collect my 20%. That is equal to 174,000. 176,400. Okay, and then I'll get my 92.5. Then I'll say multiply this one again by my after the discount of 7.5. If I take out the discount of 7.5, I'm simply saying 100 minus 7.5. I'm gonna get, that is my 92.5. All right, remember. Okay, then I'll say multiply by 0.925. That amount would be collected in April. That will be collected in April because that will be your number 1. That will be collected in April. If I am in May, I don't collect that amount now. If I am in May, I'll now say the 882. I'll now say the 882,000. I am now going to get my number 2. My number 2 is 55%. So I'll multiply that by 55% like that. And then I'll get my amount, which is 485,100. So this is what I'll get here. 485,100. This is what I'll collect here. All right. Let's come here now. When I am in May, when I'm in May and I sell, I know that I'll get 20% of those sales in the same May. So it means I'm going to come here and then I'm going to say, of my sales in May, my sales in May are 891,800. 891,800. Then I am going to get my 20%, which is that one there. Then I will also get my 92.5% because 7.5% will be given as discount. So what we then collect is the 92.5. And then I'll get my 92.5. And then that is going to give me 164,983. 164,983. Okay, so that was given in your answer book. That was given the 485,100 and the 164,983. That was given. So let's begin now in June. Let's begin in June. Now, in June, I want us to make it easy here. If the 1, 2, 3 is a challenge, let's use ABC, right? Just so you can simply follow here. So this becomes my A, B, C. So I come to June, June. So the same June becomes my A here. And then I go up, I get my B. I go to the top, I get my C. As simple as that. Okay? A, B, C. A, B, C. So I come to June. Let me start from the bottom. My sales are 921,200. 921,200. So I'm going to come here. And I'll say my 921,200, I get A, which is 20%. So I'll come here. Then I'll say my 921,200, I will get of that amount. I will get 20% multiplied by 0.2. That is going to give me 184,240. But I know there's a discount of 7.5. So I'll say that figure multiply again by 0.925. 0.925. And then I'll get 170,420. So I bring it here on my A. It becomes 170,422. That is on my A now. Let's go now. To get my B here, I'll now say the 891,800. I'll say 891,800. 891,800. 891,800. Then I'll say multiply. I know that B is 55%. B is 55%. So I'll multiply that by 55%. And then I'll get 490. So I'll come up here. It's going to be 490. Then I get my C, which is 22%. So I'll say 882,000. 882,000. Multiply that by my 22%, which is C. Multiply by my 22%. That will give me 194,000. 194,040. So I'm done with June now. Let me go to July. Okay, so if I sell in July, do I collect in June? No. So there'll be nothing over here. There'll be nothing over here. If I sell in July, when do I start collecting? In the month of sale. The month of sale is July. That means I'll start collecting in July. So I'm going to call that A. And the month after that, on top, I call it B. Then the month on top, I call it C. So I'm collecting A, B, C. Here it's A, B, C. Going down. Here it's A, B, C. Going up. So it means I'll take my 931,000 here now. I'll take my 931,000 and I'll say 931,000. I multiply that. Remember, I'm getting A. So it's 931,000 multiplied by my 20%. That gives me 162,000. 186 rather. 186,200. Then I must take out the 7.5%. So I must only collect 92.5. Then I come and say multiply by 0.925. That means I'll end up with 172,235. So I'll come here, it's 172,235, like that. Then I come to B. On B, I have 921,200. On B, I have 921, 200, and then I'm going to collect 55%. So I'll come and get 55%, and that is going to give me 506, 660. So I'll come here, it's 506,660. That is my B. My C, I need 22%. So I'll come, then I'll say in May, 891, 800. So it's my 891, 800. And then I'm going to say multiply that by 22%. And that is going to give me my final amount, which is 196, 196. So it's 196,196. And then we simply total our figures because this one here was given. So we're just going to add our June and our July. Okay, quickly give me the June amount. How much is the June amount? So you get 854,952, 854,952, and in July you get 875,091, 875,091. Okay, so this was the first debtors collection schedule that we did. I'm going to do again another one so that you get to understand how quickly you can do this. Once you master this trick, you can be able to do this 3 minutes tops. You can finish this and then move on to the next question. One of the biggest reasons why you don't finish the accounting exam paper is because you take long in particular questions. The debtors collection schedule, you can really do it in a flash. Once you practice on this trick, you are able to complete it well ahead of time. Okay, let's go now to the Gauteng Prelim for the year 2023. Gauteng Prelim for the year 2023. And then we're going to be focusing on paper 2. All right. And then let's see what we have. Gauteng Prelim for the year 2023. Okay, so here's the collection trend. And we're told 60% in the month of sale, 30% in the month following the month of sale, and then 8% 2 months, and then the rest must be written off as irrecoverable. Here we're talking bad debts here. So this one will be written off as bad debts. It's much easier if we have everything on the same page. Here we have the debtors collection schedule, but you can see we have a missing amount. All right, so we need to calculate those credit sales over there. All right, and then let's go on. And then we come here, and then here is the answer book. Here is the answer book. What we're going to do now, we are going to say, what do I collect and in which month? That is of great importance. What do I collect and in which month? Okay, so you need to know what you collect, when, and in which month. Dear learners, we're going to take a very quick 2-minute break, and then I'll see you after 2 minutes.
I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what do I want? Do I want to become an A student, or do I want to become an average student? Number 2, I want you to ask yourself, how do you plan on getting there? Are you going to put more extra hours, or are you going to just sleep? Number 3, who will be with you in this journey? Because it is important that we associate ourselves with students who have the same vision as us, who want to become a student, who want to put in the extra work, who want to become better at what they do. Unsuccessful people do not plan. They just let life happen to them. But successful people are planning on how they want their lives to be. And right now, you plan on how you want your results at the end of the year to be like.
Excellence. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a quality you have, a quality I have. It's a quality we have when we honor what is true to us. Yes, we are gifted differently. uNkulunkulu akasinganga ngokufana. Excellence is striving for your best. Whenever you have a particular project, test, homework, uzibuze, ask yourself, is this my best? Can I put in more effort? Excellence is striving to be in the top 1% of the area in which you are gifted. And so I challenge you, in every single thing that you do, in every single area that you're gifted in, whether it's sports, it's academic, ucula, whatever that gift is, strive for excellence.
Welcome back, dear learners. Before the ad break, we were supposed to start completing this debtors collection schedule that has been adapted from the Gauteng Prelim for the year 2023. Let's do that. Okay, so here is my answer book. So I know that 75% of all sales is on credit, and based on the experience, debtors pay as follows: 60% in the month of sale, that's my A; 30% in the month following, that's my B; and then 8% 2 months after, that's my C. The rest, bad debts. This is my bad debts. Let's go on then. So when I come here, I know that if I sell goods in May, I'm going to start collecting in May, in the month of sale. So I'm going to look for May. Where my May and May meet, it's here. And then that becomes my A. And then the line at the top becomes my B. And then I keep going, I get my C. Okay? So I know here I'm collecting May here. So that becomes my key. I then say May, let's go down here. I meet with my May here. So the point where my May meets my May, I make that A because this is in the month of sale. And then the line above becomes B, and then the one on top becomes C. And then I'll now say, if I'm in May and I sell goods, let's have the calculator ready. The sales in May are 5,887,500. How much do I collect? I know that I'll come and say, my 5,887,500. I will get, in the month of sale, 60%. In the month of sale, I'm going to get 60%. So I'll come here and then I'll say 60% of that times 60%. 60% of that will give me 3,532,500. But I know that there's a 4% discount here. If there's a 4% discount, that means from the 100% we must collect, we are not getting the 4%, it's discount, so we're getting 96%. So I'll then come and say, this one, multiply by 0.96, and that will give me my 3,391,200. So that comes to May here, 3,391,200. That is what I collect in May from the sales in May. Then to get that amount there, I'm going to come, then I'm going to say the 5,625,000, and then that becomes my B. My B is 30%. So I'll come and I'll say my 5,625,000, I'll get my B, that is 30%. By 30%, that gives me my 1,687,500. So I'm coming here at the top, 1,687,500. Okay, now to get my C, it was already given, but I now need to calculate the amount that comes in there. All right, so I'm going to add everything. I want you to have your calculator as well. We're going to say 414,000 plus 1,687,500 plus 3,391,200. How much do you get on your calculator? 5,492,700. Thank you. 5,492,700. That is the amount in May that will be collected, the total in May. Let's come to June. In June, I know that when I come here, I'll say, here is my June. But I want to collect in June. So if I'm in June, here it says in the month of sale. So I'll come down where June and June meets. Where June and June meets, that's my A. And the one above becomes my B. And then the last one on top becomes my C. Hence you see, we cannot collect here in that area there. Okay. So I'll then say, I need to have credit sales in June, but I've already been given the collection for June. It means that if I have my credit sales, I'm going to call it credit sales for June. If I multiply that by 60% and I multiply that by, you remember, there's a 4% discount, so I'm getting 96%. So I multiply that by 96 over 100. That should give me my 3,456,000. Are you following me? Okay. Now, we are given this one, but we are not given the credit sales here. So to get the credit sales, I'm going to do it step by step. To get the credit sales, it becomes easy. You just say your 3,456,000 first, divide that by 60%, that's 0.6. Okay, if you divide that by 0.6, let's come and do that together. So I'm now saying my 3,456,000, 3,456,000, I divide that by 0.6. That is my 60%. Then I get 5,760,000. That is equal to 5,760,000. I am aware that there was a discount here of 4%. That means we collected only 96%. So I've dealt with this part. Now I'm going to deal with that part. Then I'm going to divide this by 0.96. So I'm going to come and I'll say now, my 5,760,000, I divide that by 0.96. And that gives me 6 million. That becomes my final answer. So here it becomes 6 million here. Here it becomes 6 million. That is the final answer. So they wanted us to get this one, and we got that 6 million. I showed you a very simple way. You don't have to be doing pure maths. Even when you do mathematical literacy, you saw how we did it very, very easily. So we simply took our collection in June. We divided by 0.6, and then we divided again by 0.96. Now, let's get the collection that will be here on B. It means I have to come to the credit sales here, which is 5,887,500. Let's do that together. So we're going to say 5,887,500. And then we are getting B. B is 30%. I multiply that by 30%. That is going to give me 1,766,250. 1,766,250. Let's get C. To get C is easy. I'm now saying my 5,625,000, then by 8%. So we come here, we say it is going to be my 5,625,000. 5,625,000, and then I multiply that by 8%. That will give me 450,000. So I come here and then I get my 450,000. Calculators ready, guys? Calculators ready. Let's calculate to get that one up there. How much do you get? You get 5,672,250. That becomes the final answer for us. Okay, so there is our debtors collection schedule. You can do it way faster than we did here. Practice makes perfect. The more you practice, then accounting tends to stay in your fingertips. You don't struggle after that. Okay, can I move on to a very interesting question that I have for you here? Okay, so here we were completing the debtors collection schedule. This is from the Gauteng Prelim for the year 2023. I have another question that I want us to do. Listen to this one. Then they say, okay, so the question here has changed. Still the very same information, but the question has changed now. I want you to see if we can crack this one together. Okay? Keep calculators close. Listen, it says, calculate the amount of bad debts to be written off in the month of June. The month of June. Here is June. Calculate the amount of bad debts that will be written off in the month of June. Can I ask, what percentage will be written off as irrecoverable? What percentage will be written off as irrecoverable? We understand that when we sell goods on credit, debtors, the amount is 100%. The full debt will be 100%. So here is our 100%. Then we will collect 60% in the month of sale. That means I'll come here, then I'll say minus 60%. All right? And then we'll collect 30% in the following month. So I'll come here, then I'll say minus 30%. And then we'll collect 8% 2 months after. So I'll come again here, and then I'll say minus 8. Then I'm left with 2. So the rest that must be written off as irrecoverable is 2%. So I know that 2% of my credit sales will be written off as irrecoverable bad debts. Now we want to know the amount of bad debts to be written off in June. In June. Okay, now I'm going to show you what you're thinking, and then I'll explain why it is wrong. In your mind, you are thinking, Mr. Simbi, here we had the 6 million. You remember that 6 million? So in your mind, you are thinking, let's take that 6 million. Let's take that 6 million. That's what you're thinking. All right? Because here they said June. So you would think, let's take the 6 million and then let's multiply that by 2%. Before you even get the answer, that answer will be wrong. Why so? Because when we sell in June, if we sell in June, we will collect 60% in June, and then we'll collect 30% in July, and then we'll collect 8% in August, and then the bad debts, the 2%, will be written off in September. So we don't have to deal with the June sales. That will be very wrong. So if we are in June, we have to think backwards now to say, if we're writing off bad debts in June, it simply means there's a debtor who bought goods sometime in the past, and we have collected 60% of that. We have collected 30% of that, as well as the 8%. Now, there's nothing more to collect. We can't collect. Therefore, we write off. So you have to calculate going backwards. It simply means if you are in June, you will now say, if you are in June, that is where you are, you would want to write off. You write off after how many months? The same month, 1. Same month is 1. The following month becomes 2. And then 2 months after that means is 3. And then the 4th month, you write off. Okay, so if you are in June, you are saying you're in June. If you want to write off, you have to count going backwards. So you're going to have you have to get up to the 4th time of counting. So you're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. So you come to March. If we sell goods in March, we'll get 60% in March. Then we get 30% in April. Then we get 8% in May. Then we write off the 2% in June. The question says to be written off in June. So if we're going to write off in June, we have to look at the months going back. And it took us back to March. So when we are in March, we would say, what were the credit sales in March? It was 5,175,000. That were the credit sales in March. And then we know we are writing off what? 2%. Calculators ready. Calculators ready. Then we would say 5,175,000. 5,175,000. We multiply that by 2%. And then it will give us 103,500. So here it becomes 103,500. It's a very common question. Very important that you understand how I got this amount. You can't use June. Otherwise, from the sales in June, the bad debts will be written off sometime in September. But if you want to write it off in June, you have to go back to March. So you have to understand what is the question saying. Calculate the amount of bad debts to be written off in the month of June. So you have to go back to March. Can I move on to the next question? Thank you. Let's do that. The next question says, calculate the amount of discount to be allowed in the month of May. The amount of discount to be allowed in the month of May. Okay, so if we want the amount of discount that is going to be allowed in the month of May, that's easy to do so. We know that for there to be discount, the debtor has to pay in the month of sale. In the month of sale. So if we're going to write off the discount or to record the discount in May, the sales must have taken place in May. So I come and I look at the credit sales in May, which is 5,887,500. Credit sales in May. From those credit sales in May, we are going to get 60%. 60%. Let's get a figure. All right, we're going to get 60% of that. So we'll say the credit sales in May, that's 5,887,500. And then we get the 60% of that. That will give you 3,532,500. Okay, let's put that down. 3,532,500. Here's the tricky part. We know that we are not going to collect 100% of it. 4% is discount. Don't make the mistake of calculating the 96 because the 96% is collected. The one that will be written off as irrecoverable is this 4%. That is what we want. So I then come here and then I'll say that multiplied by 4%. Okay, let's punch it in and then I'll say multiply by 4%. And that will give me 141,300. 141,300. That becomes the discount to be allowed in the month of May. Are we good? Okay. Can I go on to the next one? Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question, which is more interesting. Yes, way more interesting than this one. Can I show you the next one? Let's look at the next one. So this one is from the NSE November 2017. Okay, so I did a few changes, a few adjustments to this question so that it can suit what we want to teach here. Okay, so let's look at it. It says, use the November figures to calculate the following. The instruction of the examiner is very important. We use the November figures to calculate the following. Okay, calculate the trend that debtors are expected to follow when paying their accounts. So we can see here we're given a complete debtors collection schedule. This is a complete one. We're not completing it. It has already been completed for us. But we know that for us to have a complete debtors collection schedule, there has to be a collection pattern, a trend. 60% in the month of sale, 30% in the following month, 8% in the following month, and then 2% to be written off. You remember that one? That is what they want us to do. So they want us to come here and calculate this trend, and we put it over here. Okay, are we good? Okay, so if you already have your calculators ready, you're going to need a calculator for this one. So the trick is there's a percentage that will be collected in the month of sale. There's a percentage to be collected in the month of sale. And they said use November figures. So let's come to the month of November. When we're in November, we know if we're to collect in November, we must have sold in November, the month of sale. So we come, it's going to be November, and then that is the first one here. That's the first one here. So remember from what I did earlier on. From earlier on, I taught you the A, the B, and the C. So if I come here, it's going to be A, and the B, and the C. It's still going to be the same thing. You can do it going up or you can do it going this way. It's still going to give you exactly the same amounts. Okay, so I will now come and I'll say in November, my credit sales are 240, but I collected 56,000. what percentage was that? So I'll say 56,000. I'll divide that by my 224,000. Then I multiply this by 100 over 1. Calculators close, my good friends. Then we're going to say 56,000. Let's divide it by 224,000. That is going to give me. Then you can multiply that by 100, but already you can see this is 25%. So this is equal to 25%. So the amount that will be collected in the month of sale is 25%. Can I go on? Let's go on to the next one. I'll come and calculate the B. All right. So you can use the November figures, that is the ones collected here, or the ones from this way. It will still give you the same amount. Okay, I'm going to use the B. The B is 75,264, and then the sales are 134,400. You multiply by 100 over 1. Let's put that onto the adding machine. So it's going to be 75,264. Are you following? I divide that by 134,400 by 134,400, and I am going to get 56%. So I'll come here, 56%. So that means here it's 56%. All right, let's come here now. 2 months after, that means I'm calculating my C. So this was my A, that's my B, and I'm going to get my C. To get my C, let me put it down here. To get my C, I'm now saying 16,800. I divide that by the 112,000. I multiply this by 100 over 1. Calculators, let's see. So it's going to be 16,800, okay, on the calculator. And I'm dividing that by 112,000. 112,000. And then it gives me 15%. So here I get 15%. That means here I get my 15%. The rest will be written off as irrecoverable. I taught you earlier on how to get the rest. To get the rest, you're simply saying 100 minus 25 minus 56 minus 15. And I think the rest here is your 4%. So the examiner can test you on either of these ones. Maybe they can give you some, or they won't give you anything. You just have to know. Remember, I've started with the preparation of the debtors collection schedule, and then we did those missing amounts, calculating credit sales, and now we are doing the trend. Very important that you know how to do this particular trend. Okay, let's go on to the next aspect. In the next aspect, I'm still on the very same information. It then says, calculate the percentage of debtors that are expected to comply with credit terms. The percentage of debtors that are expected to comply with credit terms. If you joined my previous week's class, I spoke on the debtors age analysis. In the debtors age analysis, that is where we are introduced to terms such as credit terms, credit limit. What is all this? All right. So credit terms, it is the period in which we're given to settle an account if it's creditors. And then if it's debtors, it is the period we give our debtors to settle the account. So here we are told the credit terms allow debtors to settle accounts by the end of the month following the month of sale. So here they're given 2 months. No discount is allowed. However, based on past experience, let expect debtors to pay according to the debtors collection schedule. So we want to know the debtors that will comply to paying their accounts in 2 months. All right. And then use November figures again. Okay, that's easy. So if we are in November, from this credit sales in November, which is the 224, we know we're going to collect 56,000 here. We're going to collect 56,000 in November. And then we'll also collect 125,440 in December for the second month, plus 125,440 together. And then we divide that by the 224, which is the credit sales. We'll multiply this by 100 over 1. how much is that going to give you? Quickly, please. That gives you how much? 20. Okay, sorry. You said 81%. 81%. So that gives you 81%. 81%. Someone is saying, Mr. Simbi, I have a very quick way of doing it. How would you do it? Okay, you remember when we did the pattern? On the pattern, we had the first one, which was what? Your first one was 25 and the second one was 56. So if you go back to what we did earlier on, I don't know if I'm able to go back. Yes, here. So the month following, that means in the second month, you would have paid 25 in the first month, and the second month is 56. So someone is saying, Mr. Simbi, the way that you could have done it was simply to say 25 plus 56. That gives you 81%. Still the same thing. Okay, so these are the debtors that we expect to comply to the credit terms. Creditors payment schedule. Creditors are suppliers who allow the business to purchase on credit. So we have businesses that allow us to buy goods on credit. These creditors should be well managed to ensure good relationships with them. Very key. That means we should pay them on time. This allows us to gain discounts and to avoid interest. We're talking penalties on late payments. A payment schedule will estimate an amount payable to creditors each month. What information is needed to prepare a creditor's payments schedule? Number one, use the credit purchases or use cost of sales to determine credit purchases. I'm going to do that with you. Use the markup, that is when you're given sales. Cost of sales is used as most budgets are based on the principle that what was sold will be replaced in the month. At times they'll say the business maintains a fixed stock base. It's one and the same thing. At times they'll say this business replaces stock that have been sold. It's simply one and the same thing. Others would actually give you a base stock. They can say the business maintains 200,000 of stock. It means one and the same thing. Whatever is sold is what we buy back. Use the payments to creditors that are recorded in the cash budget to work out purchases. Note, the percentage paid must be used to determine the credit purchases. We're going to do that together now. And in order for us to do that, let's go to the NSC November, the year 2022. Okay, here is the information, and this is how our creditors expect us to pay. And then here's the creditors payment schedule. That is the answer book. If you're ready, let's get busy. All right, so we have to get first the credit purchases. Credit purchases. That is very, very important. In October, we need the credit purchases. Here we have October, we have November, and we have December. We are told, note, cash sales comprise of 30% of total sales. Here we're given total sales, and here we're given cost of sales. And then information B, a base stock is maintained. Stock sold is replaced in the same month. Cash purchases comprise 15% of total purchases. Cash is 15%. So if cash is 15, that means credit is 85 because total purchases is 100%. That should be clear. All right. So we're then going to come here and then we're going to now say, I know that whatever we sold is what we're going to buy. So my cost of sales would then reflect the amount of stock that we're going to purchase. It means in October, I'll look at my cost of sales, which is 354,000 here. So for October, I'm going to come and say the 354,000, and then I'll multiply that. What I want is 85%. So I'm now going to come and say in October, remember, I am taking my cost of sales, which is 354,000. So I'm going to say 354,000 and then I am getting my 85% by 85. That will give me 300,900. Okay, that is my cost of sales. So I'm coming here, is 300, 900. So I'm coming here, that is 300, 900. Let's come to the month of November. In November, I have 390,000. So in November, I have 390,000. So I'm coming here to say 390,000. And then I'll say multiply by 0.85. All right. Then that will give me 331,500. 331,500. In December is 262,000. So I'll come in December, then I'll say my 262,000. Remember, I'm getting my 85%. That gives me 222,700. So I'm coming here, that is 222,700. Now, let's go to their payment. We're told 80% are paid in the month of purchase to receive a 5% discount. 20% are paid in the month after the month of purchase. So let's come to October here. If we purchase in October, we know 80% will be paid in October, the month of purchase. Here we don't have October here. And then 20% will be paid in the following month. That is November. So I'm going to come in now. I'm going to say now, my 300, 900. Okay, let's see if I can put it here where we can all see. I'm now going to say my 300, 900. Multiply that by 20%, the month after the month of purchase. Because we don't have October, which is the month of purchase. So we're going to only get after the month of purchase, which is 20%. And then that is going to give me 60,180. So I'm coming here in November, I'm going to get 60,180. Are we good? Let's go to the next one now. Can we pay in December? No, we can't pay in December because we're only paying in 2 months. So here we are not going to pay in December because we're paying it in 2 months. Same month, October. Second month, October for November. Is there October for December? No, because we only have 2 months to pay. Let's come to the month of November. When we purchase in November, we will also pay in November. So we'll say 331,500. What percentage are we going to pay in November? 80%. But we know that we're not going to pay the entire amount. We're going to pay what percentage? 95%. Because there is a 5% discount. So we say 100 minus 5. That's how we arrive at that 95. Are we still okay? Let's have our adding machines close. Let's bring it here now. So we'll now say my 331,500. That is that one. Then we're going to get 80%. That gives you that one. Then I multiply that by 95%. That gives me 251,000 to 51,940. Okay, let's do that one again. Remember, we are in November and we want to calculate the amount that we're going to pay in November. So here it's 331,500 and we want to pay that in the same month, which is November, 80% in the month of purchase. So we'll come, then we'll now say 331,500. It's my 331,500. Okay, so it's 331,500. And then we're going to pay 80%. 80%, that will give me 265,200. Okay, that is going to give me 265,200. And we receive a 5% discount. Then I'll come here, then I'll say multiply that. Okay, let's get the 265,200. Then we'll pay the 95. We pay the 95%. That will give me 251,940. So I'll come here, it's 251,940. 251,940. Okay, And then, do I pay in December? Yes. What percentage? 20%. So I'll come again, and then I will say, it is still again the 331,500. The 331,500. Now we're going to pay 20%. How much is that going to be? 66,300. So I'll come here. That's my 66,300 over here. Let's come in the month of December. If we purchase in December, can we pay in November? Like we purchased today. Can we pay yesterday? Okay, so we can't purchase in December and pay in November. Okay, so we can't have that one. Can we purchase in December and pay in December? Yes, 80%. So I'm coming to say it's my 222,700 multiply by 80%, and I need the 90%, 95% of that. So let's go and see. That is my 222,700. 222,700. That is what we have over here, 222,700. And then I get my 80%. I get my 80%. That's 178,160. Then I now say my 178,160. Remember, I have not yet done the 95%. So I'm going to come and say 178. I prefer typing it in again. 178,160. 178,160. Multiply that by your 95%. That's going to give you 169,252. So I end up here with 169,252. Then you can total it up there. That becomes easier then. Okay, I'm going to do one last creditors payment schedule with you before I move on to other calculations. The next activity comes from the Limpopo Prelim for the year 2023. Limpopo Prelim for the year 2023. Okay, so here's the information. Here is the trend on how we're going to pay our creditors. And then here is the creditors payment schedule. Now we have all information on the same page. Let's begin. So the first one is in July. But we can see here in July, we are not given the credit purchases in the month of July. But what we seek to complete is this part here. But here we are not given the credit purchases. How do we get that credit purchases in the month of July? We are told that in the month of July, we have budgeted sales, and the budgeted sales are 990. We are told credit sales comprise of 60%, but remember this is what? Total sales here. Goods are marked at 80% on cost. So the markup is 80% on cost. That means I can get my cost of sales. To do that, I'm simply going to say my 990,000, multiply that by 100 over 180. Let's see how much I get. So I'll come in and say my 990,000, I multiply that by 100 over 180. Okay, and then that's going to give me my 550,000. So I get my 550,000. That is my cost of sales. Then I'm told the business maintains a fixed stock base. Whatever we sell is what we buy. That's what they mean. Stock sold in a month is replaced in the same month. Whatever we sold in July is what we buy in July. Hence, we came to the month of July. The credit purchases are 40% of total purchases. So of these total purchases, these are my total purchases. Credit purchases are 40% of that. Credit purchases are 40% of that. So I'm going to come to this amount. Then I need to get my 40%. So it's my 550,000. I'm going to get 40% of that. That's going to give me 220,000. So I know my credit purchases for July is 220,000 over there, like that, 220,000. Now, we can pay. We are told 50% settle in the month of purchase to earn 7% discount. You can see this one is more or less like the debtors collection schedule that we did. Yes. So it means to make it easy, I can simply call this A, I call that B, and I call this C. Thank you. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say, in that one, I'm going to get my A, here I get my B, here I get my C. It means I'm going to say my 220,000 for the month of July, multiply by the 50%, and there's a 7% discount, multiply by 93 over 100. Let's do that together. So I'll come and say 220,000. 220,000. I multiply that by 50%. That gives me 110. Then I get my 93%. That gives me 102,300. 102,300. So that I bring here 102,300. Can I go on? Let's come to B. To get B, so this is how we're getting A. To get B, which is this one here now, I'll now say 212,000. Then I multiply that by B, which is 35%, by 35%. So I'll simply come 212,000. I multiply that by 0.35. That will give me 74,200. So I'll come here. That is my 74.2. Then lastly, I come to my C here, where I have my 196,000 times the last collection is 15%. The last payment rather, it is 15%. So I'll come here and now say my 196,000. Let's multiply that by 0.15, and that will give me 29,400. So here's my 29.4. Then we can add these ones to get the total there. I think you get 205,900, and that concludes it. Okay, so in order for you to complete your creditors payment schedule, you have to know how to get the credit sales, and you must be able to know when are we paying so that you can complete that part as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to something that is completely different now from the debtors collection and the creditors payments. Okay, let's do that. In order to do that, let's come to the NSC June for the year 2023. And we're going to calculate the missing figures, 1, 2, 3. Okay, have those calculators ready because we're about to punch in some figures here. Okay, so let's begin. We're going to calculate number 1 here, which is cash sales. But in order for us to do that, we need information. And we are given sales as well as the cost of sales. And here is the credit sales information that is to do with the debtors payment trend. So if we want cash sales, we have been told credit sales comprise of 70% of total sales. So total sales is equal to 100%. And I've been told that credit sales is 70%. That means my cash sales is 30%. Okay, so we know that we want cash sales here, and that cash sales is 30%. Let's go. In the month of July, here's July, we are given sales, and my sales, these are total sales of 1,330,000. Total sales. That means it's 100. So what I want is the 30. I want the 30. And what I have is 100. That should give me my number 1. So I simply take my total sales, which is 1,330,000. I multiply that by 30 over 100. Let's do that together. All right. So we say 1,330,000. And then I multiply that by my 30%. That will give me 399,000. 399,000. That becomes the answer to number 1. We good? Okay. Can we try number 2? Let's try number 2. Number 2, loan. Okay. You can see this loan is under my receipts. It means we have received a loan from Cheetah Bank. Okay. And we are also given interest on the loan, 5,500. That means it's a payment now. You can see it's under payments. This is what we have paid for this loan as interest. We're given information and it reads, the business plans to take a loan on 30 June. Okay, on 30 June. This has been negotiated with the bank at 11% per annum interest. This simply means yearly we pay interest of 11%, payable at the end of each month, commencing on the 31st of July. So this is interest. Now they want us to calculate the loan that we received. Let's see if we can do this together. We know that if we had the loan amount, and then we multiply that by 11%, and for 1 month, which is July is one of the 12 months, so 1 over 12. This would give us the interest, which is 5,500. You following? Okay, thank you. We want to get that loan, the loan. So it simply means, if I'm to get the loan, there's another simpler way, okay? I will now say the 5,500, okay? I try to simplify. That is what I'm here for, the simplest way. I'll say the 5,500, you multiply that by the 12, multiply that by 12. Okay, 5.5, multiply that by 12. Let's do that. So I have my 5.5, I multiply that by 12. That gives me 66,000. Okay. And then I take that 66,000, I divide it by the interest, which is 0.11. Okay, I divide that by 0.11. Simply divide that by 0.11. That will give you 600,000. So I end up with 600,000. That becomes my number 2. 600,000. So the examiner can use this to calculate a number of things. That is the loan repaid. They can use that to calculate the cost of the vehicles that would have been bought when you're doing, if you have monthly installments that are being paid and things like that. In next week's class, I'm going to bring such interesting adjustments as well. So make sure you make a date with me. Next week, Friday, exactly at 2, I'm here and waiting for you. Okay? I'm going to bring again calculations of similar nature. But let's continue with today's class. Number 3, payments to creditors. Payments to creditors. Are we given any information? There it is. We're given sales and cost of sales. I know I'm going to need cost of sales. But, there is more information. And it reads, stock sold is replaced in the month of sale. It's the same as the business maintains a fixed stock base. You remember what we've been reading since we started today's class. It's the same thing. And then a base stock is maintained. They say it also. 80% of stock is purchased on credit. 80% of stock is purchased on credit. And creditors are paid 2 months, that is 60 days, after the month of purchase. So it means if I want to pay in July, I have to count 2 months going back. 2 months going back. So if I'm in July, if I'm going to pay in July, I'm going to count June 1, May 2. So it means I would have purchased the goods in May, 2 months after the month of purchase. If I purchase it in May, I'm going to count month 1, month 2, July. So I pay in July. So that means I'm going to look at the cost of sales for the month of May. That's 910,000. 910,000, then I say multiply. 80% of stock is on credit, so I'm getting my 80% because this is my total purchases. So I'll come in, then I'll say 910,000, multiply that by 80%. That will give me 728,000. So I'll get here my 728,000. That becomes the answer to 3 because here there was no discount that we received. So that becomes my answer to number 3. It's as simple as I'm doing it here. Yeah, I've heard some of you guys saying, Mr. Simbi, when we have class with you, it's so simple. But when I'm on my own, it becomes difficult. Here's the trick. I do accounting daily. I live accounting. I breathe accounting. Whenever I see anything, I think of it from an accounting perspective. That is how you can enjoy accounting. You can never enjoy accounting if you don't put in minimum an hour a day. Remember, this is a practical subject. You have to keep practicing. The moment you calculate daily, accounting begins to live in your bloodstream. Whatever you do, it becomes accounting. So I hope that I am encouraging you to practice accounting daily. So remember, we have a countdown. The prelim is already on the doorstep. The last activity for the day is from the NSC November 2023, paper 2. And then let us begin. Calculate the amounts 1 to 4. Okay, so we're calculating these amounts 1 to 4. And to begin with, number 1. Number 1 is discount allowed. Okay, so we did something of similar nature today. Okay, if you remember when we did the debtors collection schedule, we did something very similar to this. Let's hear the information. We're told sales and collection from debtors, credit sales comprise 60% of total sales. 40% is collected in the month of sale. They receive a 5% discount. Okay, so this is where we have to pay our focus. Now, we know that we are not given, I don't see credit sales here, because we give discount to debtors, credit sales, but I don't see credit sales here. That means I need to get credit sales. Here I'm told credit sales comprise of 60% of total sales. That means if my total sales is 100%, don't forget that, credit sales, I'm told here, is 60%, that is 60%. Therefore, it means the remainder is cash. This is cash sales. That becomes 40%. Are you following? Okay. So, what am I given here? I'm given cash. So, this is equal to the 434,000. So, I can use, some call it the UK method, the want over, it is simply what I want over what I have times what I have. What do I want? Because it has to do with discount. If it has to do with discount, therefore I need credit sales. So I want the 60. All right? I want the 60. All right. So let's quickly come and now say, I want the 60, but I have the 40. You good? Okay. And the rent value of the 40 is 434,000. How much is the credit sales amount? So I'll say, I want the 60. I have the 40. I multiply that by 434,000. That will give me 651,000. 651,000. This now is my credit sales. These are my credit sales. Now, the moment I have my credit sales, which is 651 credit sales, these are credit sales for the month of November. And in that same month of sale, 40% will be collected. Let's get 40%. 40% will be collected. Let's get that 40%. So multiply that by 40%. That will give me 260,400. That will give me 260,400. We know that we're not going to collect the entire amount because we're going to give a 5% discount. So I need this 5%, that discount that has been allowed. So I'll say 260,400 times 5%. 260,400 times 5%. And that will give me 130,000. My apologies, 13,020. I saw 1 0 too many there. It's 13,020, not 130,000. It's 13,020. So my number 2 is 13,020. That is my answer for number 1. That is my answer for number 1. Okay. Can I go to number 2 now? Let's go to number 2. Let's see what number 2 is saying now. Here's my number 2. Interest on savings. Here's the information. The savings account will be increased by 84,000 on 1 December. Interest at 4% per annum is not capitalized and is receivable at the end of each month. So what that means is, for us to receive this interest in November, we had an old savings account. Then we have increased it now by 84,000. The quickest way is to say, if I was getting 1,200 on what was in the savings account previously, now that I've increased it, how much is my interest going to change by? So I know that of the 84,000, my interest is 4%. We get it? My interest is 4%. And remember, in the budget, the trick is you have to multiply this by 1/12. It has to be monthly. And if I punch that in the calculator, how much are you going to get? Thank you. Someone is saying 280, Mr. Simbi. We all agree. That's 280. So, in the month of November, I was getting 1,200 as interest on savings before I increased the savings by 84,000. And that 84,000 is getting me interest of 280. So I come and then I get my 280. How much is that total? 1,480. That is my number 2. 1,480. That was my number 2. There was no need to get the initial savings and then, no. That would be too long. This becomes the shortest way. Remember, in the exam, it's about time. Once you are fast, you get to complete the paper. Let's go to the next one, which is number 3. Okay? Do we have information here? Oh, there it is. What is number 3? Payments to creditors. So it's the very same thing that we've been doing in today's class. Okay. So if we want the payments to creditors, we are told that the markup percentage is 75% on cost, and stock is replaced in the month of sale where best stock is maintained. I think this word now keeps ringing in your head. You've heard it 1,000 million times so far. All purchases of stock are on credit. Creditors are paid 2 months after purchase. They're paid in full 2 months after purchase. So if we're going to pay in December, the 2 months principal again, we're going to count November 1, October 2. So we come to October. The sales are 1,067,500. 1,067,500. We want to get the cost of sales because we're told markup is 75. So it's 100 over 175. Okay, quickly please. So we are going to say 100 divided by 175. And then we multiply that by 1,067,500. And that will give me 610,000. 610,000 becomes my cost of sales. For which month? For the month of October. Remember, that will be paid in full 2 months after. That is in December. In full. There was no discount. So this becomes my answer to number 3. And then the last one for the day, rent expense. We're told rent expenses are expected to increase by 13% from 1 December. So we know before increase, it is 100%. Before increase, it is 100%. And then we have an increase of 13%. That means after increase, it is 113%. The question is, this 31,640, is it before or after increase? Rent is expected to increase from December, so this is after increase. That makes it 31,640. So what we have, it's already after increase. What do you want? In November, it had not increased. Before increase. So you want 100. You have 113. And that rent value of the 113 is 31,640. So we come here and then we say, what I want, it's 100. What I have is 113. And then I multiply that by my 31640. 31640. And then I get 28,000. So that gives me 28,000 here. That becomes number 4. Dear learners, thank you so much for joining me in today's class. It's always a pleasure to have you. And please, if you know that friend who did not manage to join today's class, you can still share with them the link to today's class. It doesn't expire, so you still give it to them and they can still watch today's lesson. We are preparing for the prelim that is just on the doorstep. Until next time, do you know when is next time? Next week, Friday? Tell your friends exactly at 2 p.m. Mr. Simbi will be teaching, and I'm going to be doing budget analysis again. We're going to look into variance, and it's going to be an exciting class next week. Until next time, enjoy your studies. Goodbye from me.